Hello, humans and hybrids. I am the Devil's Advocate, and this is Penetralia, and we are going to discuss the Divinity of Darkness. Now, based on the introductions, you may have assumed that you know anything about what this video is going to be about, but you can never figure me out, and I promise you, you do not know anything about what it's going to be about. Sit down and learn something. So, I'm going to start off with a real simple story that we all can relate to. And I'm going to preface that with saying that what the human being looks at as light and dark on a divine level is divine love and wisdom, not light and dark. It's divine love and wisdom. Now, divine love isn't what we humans think of as love. We have minimal love. The divine loves everything about itself. No, all of it. Its love is different. What we call darkness is where the wisdom lies, the real wisdom. Now, we can look at this in a few different ways. We know that, one, the dark created light. Why would it do that? Well, because the dark holds a lot, right? It's not all love and light. That is not how any of this works. But the dark created the light, and the light cannot comprehend itself. It doesn't understand itself. And the way to think about this is real simple. I've said it before, but go shine a light, like a flashlight, into the sun or into another light, and you will not be able to tell what it is. So it's not an analogy, it's exactly how it works, but the love and light part of the divine that is the same thing that the dark is not able to know what it is until it is shown what it is not. So, if you have a kid, at some point you have had to tell your kid, don't touch the stove, right? This is how divine love and wisdom works, by the way. So, of course, he's my son. He is so hard-headed, just like his dad. He is my karma child, but he's awesome. But, of course, was going through a thing, don't touch stove, don't touch stove. And sure as shit, one day he touched the stove. So, he burned the hell out of his hand. That was exactly his words to me when we talked about it, but he burned his hands. Now, in that moment, I took a step back and I had to really think about it from a different perspective. He had no choice but to touch the stove. Me telling him and you telling your kids, do not touch the stove, not only does them a disservice, let's say he would have listened to me and never touched that stove, he would never understand and understand what hot was, why he shouldn't touch the stove, what it feels like when you touch the stove. He would have been robbed wisdom. Now, this is a really simple example, but think about it. If he would have never touched a hot item, he would not know what hot is. He would have no wisdom on the topic. So he had to touch the stove. However, I love my kids. I could never look at my kids and tell them to touch the stove. But I know for his own benefit, growth, and understanding in life, he must touch the stove. So who's going to do it? Story time. So I'm going to tell you a past life story and how a lot of this came to me personally. Now, I'm not real big on past life stuff because I have a lot of different perspectives and views than most of everything else I see. I think that's how it should be. I think we should think for ourselves, find our own shit instead of just reading the old books and regurgitating the same old shit and doing things the same old ways. But that's just my opinion, and that's all it is. My opinion. Here is my perspective. But I don't get real big on the past lives because I just don't. But there's one in particular that, for whatever reason, not whatever reason, I'm about to tell you the reason, but it was presented to me, showed to me, and I remembered a lot more than I was comfortable with about this past life. But in a past life, last time I was here, my name was Vlad the Third. If you know who it is, you know who it is. If not, go look up Vlad the Third or Vlad the Impaler. Now, when this past life memory came onto me, I was very disturbed, obviously. Extremely disturbed. I struggled with this one because there's certain things about this past life that I remember, like how the thing was done. I remember it. So it was I come into this incarnation, and I carried over a lot of darkness because I because I brought over a lot of darkness. So I've spent a lot of time in darkness. Now, that doesn't mean I was out there just, doing evil acts or anything in this life, but it means that I knew that I had demons around me more so than anything else my entire life. So the reason I bring this story up, though, isn't to tell you about a past life. It's to tell you the lesson that I learned. So I channeled myself. Feel how you feel about that, right? I go straight to the source always. That's it. No one gets in my energy. But I had a channeling with my own essence, which you can do as well. And I sought to understand what it was. Well, there's two sides of that story. If you go back and look at Vlad's story, like on one hand, to the rest of the world, he's the OG vampire, like 80,000 people in the front yard, like it looks bad. And there were some things, that wasn't pretty about it. So I wanted to understand why, because I felt like I'm now dealing with this, trying to like figure it out. Well, it turns out it wasn't what people think. So let's paint the scenario, right? Vlad has a kingdom. And it's a small kingdom in comparison to the kingdoms that want to come and take his. Okay? He was outnumbered by far. By far. Now, they offered for him to surrender, which would have meant that all his people would have been who knows what with. But his people wouldn't have been protected for sure. Or he'd fight. He was outnumbered. He knew he wasn't going to win the war, so we had to think about it differently. I've always been clever up here, but he had to go to psychological warfare, right? So there is something about seeing what he did to all those people for anybody and any amount of people that are walking up and have to walk through that is going to mess with him psychologically. So he used psychological warfare. Now, it's not about the war. It's about why he did it. He did it out of divine love for his people. Because these were your options. What would you do? You have a kingdom, you have people, you're outnumbered, or you can go to extreme violence to protect the ones you love. Are you following? So that's what he did, out of an act of love. And that, my friends, makes all the fucking difference in the world, right? Like, it is when we do things from a place of non-love that it turns on us, that it is not right. But there are times and there are things that will happen to us in life that we do not want to not be able to access the part of us that may need to defend itself, that may need to stand up for itself, that may need to leave the relationship, that may need to fucking love itself. Right? So there is this balance of love and dark, light and dark, And in this case, this was like where I started to understand my own darkness. And so throughout my journey, like when I gotta walk into a situation or I gotta deal with some darkness, like I deal with it head on. Like head on. I am not scared of the dark. Like if I have something that is, let's say, a demon, I've only had to summon one. Now let me just say something. I look at demons however I need to, right? The only inner me is the inner me. So sometimes I give them form. Sometimes I understand that it is just an energetic thing, just like an angel and an angle. Like we can break it down however you want. I do what I need with it. Sometimes I had one that I was struggling with, Osmodeus, and I just straight summoned him and dealt with it right there. The reason I bring this up is because it is only in those moments of going through your own darkness, understanding your darkness, not releasing it, I don't want this, oh, everybody did me wrong, like understanding the inner workings of it at such a depth that you face it till you love it. All of it. The things you're embarrassed about, the things that you want to do with your life, but you're scared to do with your life, the embarrassing things, the things you're ashamed of, all of it. Because it is all a part of you. Now, whether that is a part of you or me that like we are going to carry with us and that we are going to bring into the next phase of our evolution is a different story, but it is a part of us. You are who you are, and if you're watching this video, you're somewhere along on your path, which means you've been doing some work, which means you're headed in the right direction in some way in your life. Like, be proud of that. But it is those things, it is those dark moments that got you here. They're not to be like forgot and shunned about. And like, you know, it's funny because like I'm a wild card, like legit. Like, you might see me on a Sunday morning bumping Jesus culture, like Holy Spirit, you're welcome here, and then I might summon Beelzebub just to have a chat later that same day. Like, I embody both light and dark equally. I understand the correlation and the relationship between the one thing that they are showing me from two different perspectives. And really there's a lot more than two, because duality is alive, but that's for another video. But the thing is, it's your perception of how you view something is on you, right? Like, I don't worship shit. I don't like some people, you know, they look to demons, they look to angels, they look to gods. I do not. I look for myself. That is all I'm looking for. I'm just looking for myself, and I know where myself is. We are connected. And the thing is, you have that same connection. And unless you are willing to look into the parts of yourself and accept them, then you are going to have a little bit more of a struggle finding the light. The darkness defines the light. It is the dark that shows you the other side of it. So if you negate and neglect this part of it, like, you're going to miss some things that you could learn. And this is divine wisdom. You see, the dark holds a different kind of wisdom. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go run through it and approach it the way that I did. I'm comfortable there. Like, I've never had a problem being there. But I understand what it is. I understand that there is, like, the reason we are in a school is to become better gods or better versions of ourselves. If you or I, and trust me, I have struggled most of my life a lot from my own doing. But if we haven't had those struggles, or we couldn't overcome some addiction, or we couldn't say no to this, or we couldn't do little shit like this, what makes us think that we should be at like God level? Just think about it. Think about it. Like, somebody has to be there to make you or your kid touch the stove. And it is the same thing that is trying to teach you the lesson of the stove that is trying to make you, or going to make you touch it. But it is your perception of how we look at it. Now, it's easy to personify things. Like, it's easy to look at the demons and deities and all this and whatever. Like I said, I give it form if I need be. I look at it as an energy if I need be. But I know that nothing is outside of me that is not within me. So however you look at it that works best for you is for you. But for me, when I want to grow, I gotta turn down the glow. That was so cheesy, but it did rhyme, right? I mean, it was yeah, all right. My bad. I told you I'm a dad. When I want to grow and understand something, the light cannot teach me that, because I cannot see the outline of the light until I go over here and inspect and understand and learn what that is. And I don't give power to any depiction. I don't give any consideration to what any human tells me symbolism or any of that means. If we think it means the same thing, cool. If I needed to change it to fit my needs, cool, because it's symbolism. I understand symbolism. I understand the importance of things making sense for me, not me making y'all make sense, because to me a lot of y'all don't, and I probably don't to a lot of people, and that's how it should be, in my opinion. But for example, my shirt, which is actually a really dope depiction. I make some really dope merch, and you can check it out on my website, penetraexperience.com. But this shirt, let me explain my interpretation of the goat. And yes, I am familiar with all of the ones that exist here. I do not give a shit. Think about a goat itself. Not the upside down pentagram, not the, oh, it forms this. I'm just, look around you. I look to the world for answers. What is a goat? The most least likely animal that you would look at and think that that's like king of the mountain. Like, goats are like top of the mountain, but would be the last thing you would, or me, like I would not picture them being climbers that they are. Like when you see like some of these goats like scale mountains, it's like, dude, that animal does not look like it should do that. So that's one. I find it interesting that, you know, so many people look to like the goat, the Baphomet, as this bad thing, but then look in the world around them and like can't like put two and two together. But the other thing is this. What this means to me, and the little flame in the middle of the goat's head, is victory over the inability to not fall for darkness's bullshit. Right? It's a victory. Not a victory over God, not a victory over some other thing that you may think that it means. To me, it is a victory over myself. My fucking self. My ability to, like, I struggled with addictions really bad for many years. Like, many years. And, like, to be able to, like, finally overcome that and get to that place. Like, that's my victory over that aspect of the enemy that is inner me. You understand? So, hopefully this has helped somebody. But I'm going to cut it short there. I got a lot more content coming out. But when it comes to this darkness, like, don't be afraid of it. And if you've got kids, there's a really, really awesome movie, and you'd probably enjoy it too. It's called Orion in the Dark. I don't know if it's like a Pixar or a Disney movie. Me and my son watched it, and like, it's a lot of, it's right in line. And you know, the TV and media is always telling us like what's to come. So go check out this movie Orion in the Dark. Get the gist of it beyond what's being told to the kid, because it's, right? Like, could you imagine like not having a world to go to and look at the stars at night? I mean, they're beautiful. Peace profound.